Hello and welcome to the Visible Women Podcast. I'm Kim DeBrew, and along with co-host Corinne Corbett, we put issues related to diversity, inclusion, and appearance in the spotlight and examine how they impact the lives of women of color. On today's episode, we want to talk about self-care. As 2018 draws to a close, and we are all, perhaps for the first time in a long time, able to take a deep breath, relax, reflect on what the year has brought our way. We want to think about the ways that we are finding time and space to take care of ourselves. As many people think about self-care practices, things like meditation, movement, art, therapy, music, journaling come to mind. And if you were able to listen to our bonus episode 2, you had a chance to hear our guest, Anand Dalik, take us through a mindful practice. Sometimes self-care also involves just sitting down to watch your favorite movie for the 5th, maybe even 10th time.
Yes, and there's even something called cinema therapy, Kim, where therapists prescribe specific movies to help their patients work through things like addiction, some serious issues that they may be dealing with in therapy. This show isn't about that. This show is really a discussion on how to deal with holiday stress, because even though this show is coming out the day after Christmas, holiday stress is still real and still happening. A study talks about the holidays being particularly hard on women. Particularly, it's women who shoulder the majority of the family burden for shopping and holiday celebration. And we feel particularly stressed because of the time crunch required to get everything done. And this is true for everyone across all socioeconomic income brackets. And then we start to feel pressure about New Year's Eve and making New Year's resolutions and being ready for change. And what we're offering today is a discussion on a respite, a moment of time for yourself that's doable.
Yeah, I think I would consider it to be a pause practice. I learned about the power of pause when I was in my coaching training, and just figuring out ways, short moments where you can kind of reflect and say, all right, I could be doing a million things, but at this moment, I'm going to stop and do something for myself. So I've been, for the last couple of weeks, just fantasizing around binge watching things on television, staying in my PJs, drinking eggnog, all of the things that I don't perhaps give myself permission to do throughout the year. I'm going to squeeze it all in these last couple of weeks of the year. So for today's show, we invited our gal pal, Charlotte Hunter, to have some lighthearted fun with us. Charlotte's both an educator and pop culture connoisseur, and she's going to give us her perspective, what she's doing at the end of this year to take care of herself. We are happy to have you. Hey, Charlotte.
Hello. So yes, I too am glad that the last 2 weeks of the year are here, and I'm looking forward to some self-care. I uploaded the last project for my course like a week ago, so this will be a great time to catch up with all that is clogging up my DVR queues, a lot of movies, a lot of TV series, just to kind of go to that space where nothing's kind of knocking on the outside of my brain saying, do this.
So let's start with this question. What makes a movie something that you want to watch over and over? And what do movies do for you, Charlotte?
I feel like a movie is just entering an experience. You get lost for 2.5 hours. And if you're lucky, you have a bowl of popcorn, some hot sauce, and a good beer or a glass of wine. So my idea of a movie is it hits that favorite place. It could be what I was going through at the time of the movie or what you want to go back to. that you might want to forget about that movie at the time around that movie. I don't know. It's just an experience. It's kind of hard to explain.
When I think about those movies that I have watched over and over and over again, I think there are characters that I can connect to in sort of a deeply personal way. The one movie I'm thinking about there's a scene in it that I feel like I embody what's going on for that character, and it has just a great soundtrack. And often I cry. It has parts that I laugh at, but there's something about a connection to the humanity, the vulnerability of a character that ends up being really important for me. How about you, Corinne?
I gravitate to movies that I know I'm going to cry. It's like the cathartic cry is sometimes underrated. And you feel a release after something like that. So watching something in which I know I've cried in the past and I know I'm going to cry again is one way to go. But the other is the warm and fuzzies that I may get from a movie, from the characters or from the story. And I look forward to that. Or I think it will bring back memories of people who are no longer here, like a movie that you maybe watched with loved ones who, when they were still here, that or were their favorite films. That is another reason I'll watch something over and over.
Yeah, I was thinking about your comment, and what came to mind is when I think about some of my favorites, I think about almost a younger version of myself, and there's something about the storyline that feels like, oh, I am taking care of that younger Kim, that little kid who, if I had known something, if I had, that connection in my life, is kind of like, oh, this would have been so great. So I think there is a care that happens for, a little kid or a girl version of myself that happens sometimes when I'm watching my favorite movies.
I think the soundtrack is an important piece with that, especially with me. They resonate. I remember movies by their soundtrack. Can I name one? Can I get one? Love Jones. Come on.
All those in favor say yay.
Man,
amen.
yes.
Say amen.
Snap one time for that one.
There you go. Snaps. I mean, that the soundtrack was phenomenal. Michelle Indegio, Cello, Raphael Sadiq, all of those guys. But, just the love in it, the whole, they were grown, but they weren't grown. Speaking back to that time in your life when that they were going through the similar things that you were going through. It was accessible. That was, oh my God. Now that's the movie. Even though your hair gets cut at the end, which is not the black girl thing, but oh my God, I love it.
So Love Jones for me, Love Jones is obviously the number one. My close second is Love and Basketball. So I think Love will be in the title of probably 90% of the movies that I would say are in my faves. Yeah, so Love and Basketball for me is very, very close second because of, I think it's the innocence of the budding romance that feels very, it holds such promise, right? It's those moments in your life where you are not jaded, are not, battered and bruised, right? Like, even though Omar's what's his character's name? Quincy.
Q, yeah.
Yeah, Q. Even though his home life is starting to devolve at the point where the characters meet, I think there is such a magic and sort of possibility of just connecting with somebody first on your interest and what you really like, and then having a relationship bud from there. It's like the friendship comes first. And if only life could be that simple, right? So what I like about it, I think, is just the simplicity when you juxtapose that against, all that you have to do in your professional life and personal life, and there's kind of like, oh, life could be simple, right? That's what really lands for me.
But that movie also, the Sanaa Lathan character, she's a little weird. She's not fitting right down in the middle. She's not the popular girl. So I'm just going to give a shout out to those of us who are weird. Okay? Thank you. I'm taking that.
I say that I like those two movies, and I love Basketball before Love Jones for me, but I love both of them because they're not in a nice rom-com box. Boy meets, like they are, but they aren't, because I think they both show imperfection more. Imperfection that we can relate to, because they are people that look like us and, may have experiences similar to us. And I think that resonates for me more deeply than, Kate Hudson, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, even though that's a cute movie. But I like that it takes you on a journey. And what I love about a good movie is that it transports me somewhere, that I'm not thinking about whatever is impacting my life for that 2 hours or an hour and a half. And I think that's great. But I'll tell you, my number one movie in Black films is The Five Heartbeats, because it gives me.
Yes.
Okay, I think we need that top three. Yes.
Snap. Soundtrack.
Acting and story, and it's, it never disappoints. I mean, I don't care where I come in that movie, I'm watching it. It could be for 5 minutes, 50 minutes, the whole thing, because it is a satisfying story. I think it's satisfying. It's, the underdogs win, but not without scars, which gives us hope. Yes, shout out to Eddie Kane, but definitely. And I think that Robert Townsend is unsung. He's underrated. He gives us some good stories. And the women were, I wish it's the story of the men, but the women could be more present if I were being critical about it. But I love it as it is too.
All right, so we got three. We'll come up with our top five.
Sparkle, the original.
Do Snap, Sparkle, the original.
Sparkle, the original. Yes. Irene Cara, Philip Thomas, yes.
Say more, Charlotte.
Alice, I love that. The scene at the end, come on. When he's not giving up Sparkle's management after all that work, and she's on Carnegie Hall stage. I'm just boo-hooing in the corner somewhere. Always. The innocence of that movie, but the juxtaposed, it's kind of dark if you look at it now, the way it looks on screen, but you get the feel for that whole era, when it turns up that the boyfriend takes the rap for the drug deal. It's just all those moments where your heart just twists, and I love that movie. And of course the soundtrack. What can I do with this feeling? I just had to go there.
Yes.
I
think even I gotta say, nothing wrong with a remake, but I'll take the original every time, because it also speaks to us as young people.
Yes.
The young person that lives in us, I think. And it, my favorite scene, there's so many favorite scenes, but I love that part. But I love when she first gets into the studio after they reunite, and she starts singing about her man, really singing to him. And Irene Cara, another unsung hero, y'all.
So I want to jump in with then my rounding out our five. Fame. So Irene Cara, so I think, let me try to, I'm not going to say my age, but I saw Fame in the movies when I
Yes.
was, I don't know, maybe 11th
Younger.
grade. I was in high school, just like the characters. And I am a frustrated dancer. So the idea that the story of Performing Arts High School was told, and we got a glimpse into the creative kids of New York City was just, it was remarkable. I think it's self-care now because I try as an adult with a very professional life to find ways to be creative. Right now it's taken the form of gardening and, you know, trying to turn my house into a Better Homes and Gardens place. But there's a part of me that longs for the art and the culture, and where I can, I find myself gravitating towards anything that is theater in the city where I live. I love it, and when I think about Fame, it's kind of like opportunity in front of you, great talent, of course, interpersonal drama, heartbreak. And it is, I think, our common theme is harkening back to kind of this youthful part of us. And so I think my encouragement is part of self-care might be getting in touch with that young version of yourself that holds promise.
I think though the the musical genre in itself is underrated. I love Fame, but a good musical will get me in a nice happy mood too. Good old fashioned musical, and even well, the modern musicals, some of them work and some of them don't, but the old fashioned ones, I love them too. The black and white ones, the Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers ones, and Cabin in the Sky. Like something like that makes me happy to watch. So the greener pastures, even though it's not so politically correct to want to watch something like that, that still does make me happy to see because you know the story, and it's just a simple thing. I mean, and to know that it was a struggle to have people of color on screen at that time.
So I got one with not folks of color. Well, actually, the cast is actually multicultural, but it's not sort of a sort of a Black film in sort of a historic way. Love Actually, My Friends.
Yes.
That
yes.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's everything. Every scene has something. What's your favorite scene, Corinne?
So my favorite scene is when he goes to in his broken Portuguese to get his woman, my beautiful Aurelia. That's my favorite.
How about you, Shar?
I love the little boy running through the airport, and then he has the whole like all these bobbies running behind him. He's just leading a charge to go after the girl, going through the little girl, his little love going to America, and he just has to get to it. And the father just, it's like, go, go, go. And he makes it there. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. God, I'm gonna start crying now. I just love the fact that they can work so many storylines and parallel storylines and how they kind of all intertwine. Some weird, you can't tell what point they're going to intersect, but they do. And then of course the closing scene when you see basically love actually multiplying over the soundtrack.
Yeah, so you just reminded me, even the opening scene at the wedding where the folks stand up, I guess there's a surprise for the bride, and they, break out the trumpets and start playing love, love, love,
Yes.
dun, dun, dun. Yeah, it's just beautiful. That opening scene, you're kind of riveted at the outset. My favorite is is the scene with Emma Thompson in the bedroom. Yes, you guys know the scene. She's just found out that her husband, Alan Rickman, has purchased a brooch for his admin assistant at work and thought it was a gift, a surprise gift for her. And that in the backdrop of the music, the great Joni Mitchell song, just is heartbreaking. I mean, there's just everything about, she acts her you know what off in that scene. She just, with just minor movements in her bedroom, she just lands it. And I watch it, I cry every time. It is self-care for me because it's those moments where you must hold it together and you just need a minute, right? She's just taken a minute before she has to face her family again. And how many times in our lives are we there, right? Like when the most devastating thing happens and you're like, I just need a minute before I can go back out there. So that's why for me, that is my scene.
I am so obsessed with that movie that I even watched I don't know, was it the special, somebody's promo where they did like Love Actually today. Did you see it? Where they had Sam and his lady love and the father, they did some scenes. They did an update of Hugh Grant and as the prime minister. I'll show it to you later. Show it to you guys. I'll send it to you later. But I like that. I just love that things are not always easy. And to see that on screen when we have lives that are not easy, to see a story where things are not easy, but love endures, it gives me so much joy, I think. And why can't I think of her name? If you guys remember the one who has the ill brother, that was just, she didn't have a happy ending. She, how many of us are taking care of a family member, a sibling, a parent, a child, that you have to sacrifice? That was just the story of sacrifice.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that particular scene. I forgot about it. And it was very impactful, right? She had this crush on her coworker and, it looked like things were turning around for her. And yet her family commitment could not, she couldn't overcome that. So.
And her name is Laura Linney. I could not remember her name.
So, final thoughts on this topic. What do we want to say to our listeners about self-care in the movies?
I think we talked about ours, but each of us has movies that are, and our lists are endless. This is just a sampling of the ones that the three of us all agree on. But our lists are endless, and you should have in your back pocket, in your imaginary back pocket, your list of at least 10 films that you can go to make it through when you're in a situation where you just need a break and you need to escape. So what are those films for you? I think it's very important to have those handy and to remember what they are.
I agree. Sometimes those movies, even if you don't have the time to sit down and watch them physically, if you can just play it in your head, a scene that'll, just bring you out of that, whatever your immediate surrounding is, just for a minute, even if you're thinking about Coming to America, the big grand scenes of Coming to America, that just kind of lifts your face for a minute, then so be it, And then when you actually get to go see something, see the actual movie, then you can enjoy it for a longer period. But sometimes it just needs to escape wherever you are through the use of a movie or a movie clip or something.
So we'd love to hear from you. We'd invite you again to join our Facebook group and share with us what your favorite self-care movies, what's on the list, what they sound like, and what matters to you about those movies. We'd love to hear. Join us for that conversation. So as we close for 2018, we want to thank you so much for being our listeners. We want to remind you that Visible Women podcast comes to you every other Wednesday. We can't wait to highlight and show how women of color are being visible in all kinds of spaces in 2019. And we want you to remember that we see you.